Dear friends and opera lovers, welcome to Prelude. Good afternoon. We are back after a long time. We are very happy to be with you again. We are now back on a limited basis, serving the operatic community as always. Although AdE staff time is restricted because of career demands that the world now goes back to normality, we will continue to conduct a small number of interviews with leading opera personalities. Today's guest is one of the world's most sought-after baritones, Mr. Etienne Dupuis, or as he wants to be called, Etienne.
Yes, please.
Welcome, Etienne, to Prelude.
Nice. Thank you. Nice welcome. Thank you very much.
We are very happy and honored to have you with us. First of all, because you are an exceptional human being, and then you are such a great artist. So, for both reasons, we are happy to have you here today.
All right.
Uh,
Well, that's that's all the time we had. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
my pleasure. Today, I'm joined by Miss Alejandra Sandoval, the founder of the Aspiring Opera Singers platform, that I would like to thank very much for her support in this interview series.
It's
Hello,
my
Alejandra.
pleasure. Hi.
So I think we are ready to start without further ado with some very interesting questions we have prepared today for Etienne. And I think the first one belongs to you, Alejandra.
Yes. So my first question, as I was learning about Etienne's everything, your history, all of your videos, studying up, your switch into classical music happened until you were 18 years old, which
Yeah.
made me wonder what kind of experiences did you go through that made you think that this was the path that you wanted to pursue?
Oh, wow. That's a great question because it happened in many different steps. My first step. Well, I was always playing piano since the age of 4, and it was classical piano. But by the time I was 14, I was really fed up with practicing, and I barely did anyway. And I didn't see myself a classical pianist. So I took a break. I switched to jazz piano. I thought that was really interesting. I played in a big band in high school. Like it was all fun, you know. But then I eventually I thought I'd like to be like a pop singer. Maybe I could play like Elton John or Billy Joel, play and write my own songs. And so I decided to try classical singing to learn how to sing better because I learned how to play piano by playing classical piano. And I even auditioned imitating what I thought Pavarotti was doing, when I heard it rarely, but I did once or twice. And that's how I got into the program. And then we did the first concert. And the very first concert, I remember singing the first piece from Winterreise, but I know I was singing two other pieces. I just can't remember what they were. But I remember the feeling, it was clear as day. I had an image in my head that popped up of a light switch and had just been turned on. It was like the feeling it was so clear to me. I was on stage singing in a former gymnasium turned recital hall, in Cégep, Saint Laurent, deep, and I don't know. It was the setting was not particularly classical friendly, but that's where I felt, oh, I would like to pursue this. And so I was working really hard at this compared to piano. Practiced hard, practiced languages hard, started listening to operas, went to the library, especially in university. I went to library uh, every time I had 4 hours in between classes. Go to library, pick up an opera, listen to it. They had recordings, either visual ones or just audio. And then the next step was, I think I was 21. I was singing in a summer program. I was singing Marcello in English. And I remember turning to the director of the program at some point and being like, I think I would like to do this for a living. And he fell off his chair. He was like, you're just thinking that now? Like I'm singing Marcello for weeks in this program. But what happened really is the acting got to me. I had bathed in music my whole life. And then I realized I could be a character, and I love that. And I still do to this day. And I've said it many times. I actually done some projects on stage where I wasn't singing. And I've done a movie or two. I did small roles, but I did a main role in the movie because this all stuff that I love to do. I love playing someone else. I'm not saying I'm great at it, but I'm adequate. Like it's something I definitely love doing. And I bring that in every opera I do. It's something that really, really drives me on stage as well.
Fantastic. So it's something you enjoy, and it's so great to do things in life that we enjoy so much, right? This is a luxury.
Oh
Enjoy
yeah. Oh,
life.
the word is absolutely accurate. So luxury, and the other thing that you need to know is that I'm a very, very lucky person in life in general. It, lucky and lazy, both of them. More lucky than lazy for now.
But it's good if you are lazy to be lucky because it helps one another in a way. Etienne, you studied at the McGill University, and
Yeah.
after that, you enrolled at the Atelier Lyrique de l'Opéra de Montréal,
Mm-hmm.
which is an opera studio, young artist
Yes.
program.
Yes.
And since a lot of ateliers, young singers that are coming seeking help from us are thinking about applying to a young artist program or an opera studio,
Of course.
we would like you to share, if you wish, your experience on how this studio helped you to prepare for the professional stage.
Right.
Your
Well, I mean, every studio is different, obviously, and as every singer is different. So it depends what I mean. You have to kind of young enough start to figure out what it is you're looking for uh, in any teaching circumstance or any teaching like environment. So not just in studios, but even like going to see a voice teacher or a coach. You can't just show up and be like, that voice teacher or that coach will tell me everything I have to do it right. You also have to figure out a bit what it is you're looking for, what it is you want to achieve. Oh, I don't know. Did I get a wrong answer? I heard a bell in my ears. I hope it was because it was the right answer. But the point is, when I was in the studio, I was young. I was 23 years old, and what I was looking for then, and I didn't even know, was I needed to know how to sing technically accurately. So by the time I finished university, and I was doing okay, but vocally there are things that I had not understood, and it's normal. You can't understand everything from one person or two persons. You need to hear the same things from different angles, from different points of view, your whole life before you figure them out. And that applies to everything in life, not just singing.
Mhm.
But there's sometimes someone will say something in a specific way, and they don't even have to be a voice teacher. It could be a coach of I don't know, training, sports, whatever. It could doesn't matter. Point is, someone will say something at the right moment. You'll hear it and you'll understand it in that moment, and then you can apply it for everything else in your life. And so that when I was in a young artist program in Montreal, there's our pianist Claude Webster who said to me one day, we were on tour with Carmen, and I was singing Escamillo, and I was struggling because my vowels were not linking well. I changed the placement a lot between vowels, and it killed my singing. It got me really tired. And he said to me, "If I tell you to think about metal, does it help?" Proud little boy said, "No." And then later on that night, we're going into the aria, and it's horrible for every baritone in the world that that e on a. It's horrible. It's just you never know. Should I cover? Should I not cover? Is it a or or a or which one is it? So and more than one is acceptable in the end. So it's horrible. And so I figured this sound that I made started going in my skull in my ears, and I said, "Is that what you're looking for? It's not metal, but it buzzes." And he's like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, whatever it is that you feel, that's what I'm looking for." Like he said metal. He could have said a buzz. He could have said whatever it is. That's the sound he was looking for. And I spent 4 months after that placing every sound that I made in a buzzing space. And it's funny because immediately two or three things happened. My voice was much louder in terms of not volume, in terms of just being heard. It carried more. That buzz is harmonics. It's harmonics. It makes the sound cut and go through the end of the hole. And it made me able to sing through arias that I was struggling with. I was struggling with Valentine's aria. I couldn't get to the end. All of a sudden, I could sing it like it was nothing. It was louder than before, and it was easier than before. And it's funny. My wife Nicole was teaching at the studio in Vienna last week, and she said to me, quite often when she got the students to do a sound just right, they would look at her puzzled and go, "But this is so easy." And yes, that's one of the answers, is if you're placed properly, it actually is easier to sing. So, you go through these programs. I know I make long answers, by the way. I hope people are okay with this. But I know going through the program, I figured out what it is I was looking for. I was looking for a safer, saner way of singing. And it came from one phrase, from one coach at a specific time. I was ready to hear it. And it helped me greatly. And of course, it didn't end there. I had to bring back to the singing what I was talking about in my first answer, which is what I love, which is characters. So once I figured out how to sing, then I was able to go, okay, let's bring back everything that I'm missing now. Because just singing, buzzing, I was like, I'm going to stop singing. This is it's so boring. I just can't stand this. So now I was able to sing properly and with the characters, and like the flame reignited, tenfold. I was like, okay, now I'm really ready to go through all the ordeals of the auditions and finding, lodgings and airplanes and name it, all that stuff. I was ready to fight through it because I had found this flame again. And that happened when I was at the studio. Right? It's not the truth of everybody. It just, you need to go and find something that for yourself that you think you're going to need. It can be languages, it can be just general knowledge of opera, how to do the job, the professional work. How does it work? What it is that you need to be ready to do when you show up for one of these contracts.
But before we go away from the opera studio, because I'm a great supporter, I haven't even been myself a member of an opera studio, but I see how much my friends have benefit from that. So I believe that it's in a way a safe place to try some things. If you are not there, you're just in a voice studio, having no opportunities to try some stuff that you are learning safely. So it is a safe environment where you can experience and experiment on some things, right?
It's very important what you just said. It's the key word being a safe environment, because what we do once you're on stage, when it's live in front of an audience, is anything but safe. It's a huge risk. Everything you're doing when you're walking out there is a risk. Sorry. You risk tripping. You risk forgetting a line. You risk making an ugly sound. You risk all of those things. So I always call it calculated risk, because the reason it's calculated is because you've experienced with all of those different aspects. You've tried your languages, you've tried your high notes and low notes and all the notes and long phrases without breathing, and you've tried all of those things before. So you're absolutely correct. One of the greatest things about studios is they're a safe environment to try all those things. Try and fail. I say that a lot when I well, more and more, I guess, when I teach, when I coach. I say, I want you to make an ugly sound. I want you to crack that note. I want you to try something that's not going to work. Because if you always try something that works, you're not learning anything. You're not testing your limits. You know it's working. Why keep singing in the space that you know is working? You know that sound's going to come out. Why do you keep doing that? Try something new. Try to go as soft as you can, or as loud as you can, or as high as you can, or as low as you can. Try, push your limits, test your boundaries. You will get surprises. For sure, you'll be surprised at what you actually can do. Despite what other people have said to you, despite what you've said to yourself. I find we're quite often our own worst enemy. So that's one thing I say that as much as I can for people to know, but also to remind myself, we are our own worst enemy. We're the ones on our bikes taking a stick and putting it in the wheel. Like, why would we do that to ourselves? We do it all the time.
Absolutely. Alejandra?
Putting the brakes on too. We put our own brakes on. We're driving, it's going well. Beautiful, sunny, the road's great. And then we're like, no, I'm scared something might happen. No reason for it to happen, but we're scared something will happen. We brake, we turn around. Keep going.
That's great advice, I think. Yeah.
Well, yes. I mean, it is a good advice. It's so much easier said than done.
True.
Especially if you've fallen before, if you've tripped and fallen, then you're scared to do it again. So bringing it back to the studio, great place to trip and fall. There'll be a lot of people around there who are also gonna look for occasions to try new things, and they might fail, and you encourage each other, and you learn that way a lot more than by just doing the safe thing. So yeah, if you have a chance to go in the studio, I would highly recommend it, if only for that.
And not be afraid to be imperfect. We can make mistakes. We can fall. We can fail.
No one is. Nobody's perfect. It's another thing. I was young when people were saying that to me. They would be like, "Oh, but you look so sure of yourself. You do not, you know." I'm like, I'm not. I have confidence. Yes, like I said, I trust the calculated risks, but there's still risks. There are times I think we've met you and I after I sang Trovatore here in Paris.
True.
It's
Yes.
one of the hardest roles I had to sing in my life. I'm not. I mean, yes, of course, every night I was like singing in my dressing room going, oh, I think it's going to be fine. I think I'll be okay. I think I'll be okay. But the worst part, there's 2 or 3 really, really tough parts in the Luna. But one of the hardest things is the first line. It's so easy to get out of pitch. The orchestra stopped. It's just you by yourself. It's a weird vowel. It's so weirdly written. And then you go to low before you go back up. And then when the orchestra comes back in, you go, oh good, I'm still on pitch. Like it's scary. And it was, oh, you're not scared. The first line I have to sing scares me. And when I was younger, it's Barbiere. You come in with the aria. Everyone's waiting for that aria. It's the scariest thing ever. I'm sure Carmen's in the dressing rooms are like, I hope the habanera goes well. Like it's first thing they sing, and it's the most famous aria of the evening. Yeah, confidence is something you work on, yes, and calculated risk. So you take risks, and it will fail sometimes. It cannot shatter your confidence. You have to understand other people have failed before you, or other people will fail after you. It's on recordings. You can hear Domingo crack notes at the Met on recording for posterity. And you know what happens when he cracks? Nothing. The audience goes wild because he has charisma and he's in the character, and what I mean? Like it's that's why singing is not just about singing. So that's why you have to develop this. I call it ego. It's ego. It's this protection that we have. Ego can be good. You cannot use ego for something that you're not. You cannot be like, I'm better than everybody. That is the worst way to use your ego. But you can use your ego trying to figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are. Both, not just strengths, both strengths and weaknesses, and then you can admit to them. It's like, I know I'm weak at this. I know I'm strong at this. And it's not, depending on how you say it, it's not a question of humility or bragging about, it's just knowing who you are. It will help. It will help, again, with the risks and with the confidence. And we all have to go through these moments of like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. We all go through them. And for the rest of our lives. I did this Onegin after the Trovatore. I was sick during the 4 shows. I couldn't understand what was going on with my voice. My throat was swollen. I took antibiotics and nothing worked. I sang the shows, but Onegin, as you know, gets harder and harder as the evening goes. Like, doesn't sing so much until the very end, where it's all high notes, and it was the hardest thing I had to do. Every night, I didn't think I was like, the G's not gonna come out. Like it was just. And I was on stage and I was petrified, and it was affecting my personal life, my professional. It was affecting everything. I did it. It came out. It was not my best, but we're all human. We can't all do our best work at all times, regardless of the jobs we have. So I'm forgiving myself for it. I mean, I'm not proud of it. It still hurts a bit thinking about it. It's too soon. That was in March. And the audience they seemed to like my performance. I gave a lot of acting. I was compensating a little, but in the end, I was like, we all have off nights. We all have times where we're not ready to sing, and we still have to go on. There you go.
It's so great for young artists who look up to you, to understand that you admit right now, I am not perfect. I am human after all, as the
Yeah.
real song says. And even you are doing mistakes, and you are living with them. You are learning to accept them and to go forward. So sometimes they are taught by different, mentors or people who guide them that they have to be perfect all the time, and they live with this fear. But this acknowledgement of our human part is really, really important.
True.
Yeah. And by the way, Sunny Boy Gladla is sending hearts and greetings in the
Sunny
comments.
Boy.
So we love you, Sunny Boy, and we miss you.
Yes.
Greetings back.
But it's performance time. So I'll toy, Sunny Boy. Hope it's the best performance of your life. I mean, no, until now.
He's doing a very interesting opera in Zurich right now. Sorry, Alejandra, I think it's the time for your question about acting.
Yes, I know that a lot of what you've mentioned already has to do with how important acting is to you and how you've taught yourself as being an actor at heart. And I wanted to know how this focus has helped you develop your roles and also fight this idea, like you said, of singing all the time, that you're like, oh goodness, like, do I have to do this in order to be honest and true to the character?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the acting it's definitely saved my butt a few times. When you okay, so when you're singing and you're focusing everything on singing and just making beautiful sounds, you might achieve it. You might become an amazing singer and make the most beautiful sounds ever. And it's possible that people will enjoy that sound that you're making so much that is all you'll have to do. It has happened, and it happens, and it will happen, but it's a very, very tiny fraction of singers that can do that. So my thought immediately was like, well, I mean, that's not what I enjoy. I'm not having fun on stage just trying to make beautiful sounds all the time. So it saved my butt in the sense that it's made me want to go back to the stage. If you do the same opera, 10 times in a row, and then you do the same role, every year, every other year, there's a point, and it happens where you're just like, I don't want to go on stage tonight. And as soon as the first note hits, or sometimes when you put the costume or you talk to your colleagues, there's that sense that overtakes you to go like, playing this character is fun. Playing a character is fun. If you actually have developed it well, with either the complicity of the stage director, even better, and if the conductor was also on par with it, amazing. But quite often it kind of has to be you with you. You have to develop a lot of it by yourself. And you might lead your colleagues, your mates, into taking a scene to a different layer with the acting, something that and audiences are no fools. I mean, I've heard a million times, like, I've never seen this scene like done like that before, or I've never seen the final duet in AdE when Nicole and I sing it. I mean, I'm not saying we sing it better than anyone else. I will never say that, because I don't think that's true. But I do think that because we are who we are to each other, the confidence we have in each other, and the emotional baggage we have with each other, it is impossible for another couple to sing that scene the same way we do it. I'm not saying not saying it's best or better than others are doing. I'm saying it's unique. That's all I'm saying. And that is what I'm looking for as a performer or as a listener. I'm looking for someone unique. I want to see what's unique about everyone on stage, next to me, or when I'm in the audience, looking for that sense of what makes that person different than everyone else. So if I'm sitting out there and the person opens their mouth or just walks on, and I go, oh yeah, I've seen singers like that a million times, I disengage. Part of me disengages from the show I'm seeing, because I'm seeing an imitation, or I'm seeing an homage to to a specific type of singing, but there are performers out there, and there's tons of them. But it's not always who we think it is. Sometimes we get very surprised. They walk on stage, immediately you go, like there's a light that comes around them, or there's not, or there's like a void or something you're like, something weird happens around them. The energy, the shimmering of the aura is different. I don't even know how to explain it, but you just realize it doesn't even hit you. You just realize afterwards. You sleep on it, and the next day you're like, I can't stop thinking about that person's performance. Like, and that to me is all acting. That to me is all caring about the character. And there's many ways to come about it. You can go method acting, where you try to become the character. You can go. One of my favorite things to do is to go as far as possible with intentions in rehearsals, and then by the time you get to the shows, it's a bit more laid back. So you're involved, definitely involved, but you're not as intense, because intensity can bring lack of precision in singing. You might, being too intense, you might, it's happened, you might injure a colleague or yourself, or you might, like I said, you might forget a line or a section, or you might, intensity might mean that you're too out of context. You still have to fit in the global show. But so there's just something that just a little laid back. So you've done all the work in rehearsals, and then when it's time for the shows, you just kind of like, oh yes, I've done that in shows, in rehearsals. I know what to do. I know where I can go. Maybe tonight I take this option. Maybe I take this option, and it's cool because it keeps other people on their toes on stage, and it makes the experience of being on stage so much more interesting. And I truly believe that then the audience feels that. It's, again, a long answer. It goes through different routes, but it all has to do with the acting to me. I'm sure other people will answer the very same way, but to them, it's not about the acting, it's the way they sing. But we're kind of saying the same thing. It's just that, it's a different language. But I think the result is the same.
You make me think that it's not only being an actor by heart, but also singing with the heart.
Completely, absolutely.
Difference if you have a heart and you show it through your singing.
Maria, I'm going to say something that I'm finding. I think I'm right. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. But quite often in different languages, I've heard people tell me, "Oh wow!" And we can hear the text so much. Like when I'm singing. Well, there's the factor that my voice is lower. To higher voices are harder to understand. All that stuff, But I started thinking about it, especially when I'm singing in French with a bunch of French people, or in Italian with some Italian people, or like, why are people always like, telling me that my language is so clear? They can understand me. And I think I've come to the realization, I think it's because I have clear intentions, as in I know what I'm singing, like the text, I think about it, I add layers to it in my head. When I always say that you say to someone, I love you, it can mean I want to kill you. So how do you sing I love you if it means I want to kill you? It's like, I love you, But if you say I love you, but it means I love you, but I'm going to leave and you'll never see me again, which is something that happens all the time in opera, then it's more of a, I love you. Or, it's more of a, I love you. But it's got an intensity that is not the same as if you just someone, I love you, and I'll be able to say it again to you in 5 minutes because I'm not going anywhere, In opera, the amount of times we have to say a line that is so much deeper in intention than what is actually written. If you can convey that, it makes it so much clearer to the audience. And so it's not about over pronunciating everything, enunciating words. It's not about that. It's really about being clear in what you mean. I always there's vowels you can sing, like la mort. If you say la mort, like death, you can say la mort. You can that M forever. You can do the R for la mort. You can any of those things will mean something new to people, but it will mean something. As long as it means something, people understand the text. But if it's just like no la mort, people are like, what did they say? What sounded like l'amour, sounded like a word. I don't know. It's the intention is what makes it come out.
The magic word you said right now, it's intention behind every word.
Intention, yes, absolutely. And behind rests as well. If you stop singing, you can stop singing in a way that you stop. You don't have to be like, no, I'm out of breath and I need to take a breath. It can be, you know,
Intention.
Rodrigo dying scene, you know, "Io morro." People, yes, it's marvelous if you can sing the whole thing in one breath. And this is not me bragging. I have done it in the past. I just think it's not as efficient because it's amazing if you're dying and you have to breathe. "Io morro, ma lieto in like there's some ma, like you just said ma. You didn't say it's io morro, ma lieto in like if you don't breathe before that, the ma doesn't mean anything. I mean, it can, but it's harder. So there's details everywhere, every bar, everything. There's details that can really spice up a performance, and it means the text is clear, the emotions is clearer, and the audience has a better time, and so do you.
And I'm very intrigued now to say, because we are all opera singers in this company, most of the people who are watching us, that in order to make your individual identity, that people know that it's Etienne who sings Conte di Luna, it's not Leonucci or somebody else. This is your personal signature, where you take your breath, where you put your special marks, it's yours. So you don't have to do what other people did so that you are right only.
Well, so if people start telling you, oh yeah, we know it's you because you always do that, but that shouldn't be a bad thing. It should be a good thing. It should be like, that's what you get when you come see me on stage in a performance. You should get someone that was at least interested in the character, and you should get someone that has, I don't know, I've ease with top notes, or I truly like to emphasize words and put intentions into everything I say. Some kind of intensity. That's what you should get when you come see me. But if you're like, oh yeah, well, you're always like that, I'm like, yeah, proudly, you know. And other people who are like, well, every time you sing anything, it's always like long, beautiful lines, or without breathing, or floaty high notes. Oh, it's always the floaty high notes. I'm like, so what's wrong with that? If that's your signature, like, proudly wear it proudly.
Mm-hmm.
Alejandra, if you let me jump one question, because I think it relates very well to what we are speaking about right now. I'll speak about the direction, the stage direction.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy more when building a character to build a character from scratch in a new production that it's first time done with you, or do you enjoy more the classical revivals, like the ones at the Met, the big thing
Yeah.
there?
Well, I mean, it's a tough question to answer because it depends who you're working with. I really enjoy working with directors or assistant directors that really like talking about intentions. It's an acting thing where you're like, when I say this line, what do I mean? Or when I walk over there, why? The problem in revivals is quite often it's done very quickly, and so they have this book, and they'd be like, well, the singer, when they first did it, he walked from stage left to stage right on that bar at that time. And I'm like, well, I can sort of understand why they would do that, because you create a reason in your head. I'm not just start walking for no reason. So it's like, oh, I'll create a reason. I think I want to go over there because of what that person is saying, and when they say that word, it gives me a reaction. I go, oh God, and I cross, and they go like, no, it comes a bar before that. And I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm feeling it more on this bar because of the. And so, as really good assistant directors will be like able to recognize that they have different artists in front of them, and they'll be like, well, if that's what worked best for you, as long as it doesn't change the original intention, let's go with it. And that's okay. But quite often, you kind of have to fight for those things. So new productions might be more fun in that sense. But then we rehearse way too long new productions, to the point where there's a feeling where things get over rehearsed. When it gets over rehearsed, the heart isn't there as much, because you can do things on stage 5 days in a row without an audience, and you just don't feel like going on the stage anymore. You're not getting anything back. You finish your aria or this big scene, and there's not even a one clap, nothing. So you give because directors, they want you to give so they can see the result, but you get nothing back. The whole point of live performance is that there's a give and take with an audience. So when you do that in rehearsals, and you give 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 every day for months, it can be 2 months sometimes, rehearsals. there's a point where you're really fed up with it, and you're like, I just, I guess it depends on the people. Some people like over rehearsing. There's a point where I'm like, the spontaneity needs to be there a little bit, and I can't be spontaneous if I'm just, and they feel it. Directors feel it. So like, this doesn't work anymore. Maybe we should change your entrance to that, or we should change this move to this. I'm like, no, you're changing something based on what you saw today or the last 2 or 3 days, because we keep redoing the same scene without an audience. We're just doing exactly what we did the day before. So we're repeating the exact same movements. Of course, there's no soul into it. Of course, as an external observer, you go, that scene doesn't work so well anymore. Yes, because we don't have anyone to perform it to. So there's that facet as well. I'm not a big fan of, I mean, I guess to answer your question, I'd say I love if rehearsals had a very specific length, and I think it should be the same, almost the same length for both revivals and new works. I think the length of rehearsals should vary on how long the production is, how complicated it is. If you're doing a 5-hour Wagner opera with there's tons of intricate movements and you want to rehearse for a month and a half, yeah, be my guest. But there's a lot of like Verdi operas where it's a lot about the singing and the big arias and big duets and trios, and so there's a lot of movements. It's mostly like you come in there and you get out, and then the rest is intention. So, well, we can rehearse for 3 weeks or a month on this. We don't have to do 2 months, even if it's a new production. And if it's a revival and they're like, oh, we can do this in the weekend, I'm like, no, that's wrong too. Because we haven't talked about intentions. These people that I'm singing with, if I only rehearse for 1 week with them, I don't get a chance to know what their experience is with, or what they think their character is. And I mean, we live with, I'm going to take Marcello as an example, but I've lived with Marcello in my head since, I've been 20, 21 years old. Being 44 now, of course, it's at a stage where it's completely different than Rodolfo has thought about his role for 5 years. Let's say he's 28 or 30, and I would, if we put together, how do we make this work? We can't do it in the weekend or in a week. We have to figure out how our characters will get along. How well where they'll meet, where they'll reach a certain level of camaraderie, because it's required by the opera, by the work. So yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is, there's no right or wrong answer. I just wish that companies and opera theaters had a more, let's say, a closer average of how long a piece needs to be rehearsed for it to be what I would consider respectful to the audience. Like the amount of times we go on stage for a premiere and we feel like we're at the pre-dress, because we didn't get a chance to be on stage before, or we didn't see the orchestra before, or it's the first time we're wearing makeup and costumes, and it's a show. And vice versa when it's a new production where you've had like schools come in and and you're like, I feel like this is the 10th show we're doing tonight and it's the premiere. Wow. So there needs to be an average. There needs to be something in the middle. It can't be that far on both sides.
So that you have enough time to prepare and bond, but also you don't lose your spontaneity of the emotion.
Yeah, it's a fragile equilibrium, but that's exactly right. That sums up perfectly what I was trying to say.
I couldn't have taken a more clear reply to my question. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I think we can speak now, let's say, about repertoire, if Alejandra wants to elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yes. So I know that as looking through the roles that you've been performing and how you've been developing from lyric baritone roles and now into more heavy repertoire, I wanted to know how were your thoughts maybe on how singers should maybe explore this bel canto lyric before transitioning to heavier roles, and like in your experience, how did you start being like, you know what, I think I'm gonna start looking at this, I'll put it here in my wish list. How can you start tackling those things?
Well, I mean, I'm again, we're all very unique, very different. I never thought I should be singing in specific theaters or specific roles. That's not who I am. I enjoy teams. There are teams and the companies I've worked in my life that I thought were the best, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself. Others, not so much. But this is where my heart lies. So it's hard to build repertoire thinking I like to sing with that person again, or because the roles doesn't matter when that's the case. But so what happened with me is I always had easy high notes, so it was fun for me to sing roles that traditionally were tough for going high. Like Barbiere is a good example, Valentin as well. And then you kind of have to trust external ears. I got offered a lot of Italian repertoire, more than French repertoire, even though French is my first language. And I was like, I guess it's the way I sing it. If there's something Italian about the way I sing, like in the way I cover and the way. And so it's nothing I'm doing on purpose. I just think that's what it sounds like um, to people out external. It's not something I'm doing, but that's where I get offered stuff, and I've got offered, my first. I think I was 33 or 34 the first time I sang a Verdi, and it was Germont, and it led to Rodrigo and Don Carlo, and it led to, I mean, to many. I've done one time at Renato. I've done I say yes to those things I like to take those kind of risks because I learn from them. And I knew Renato I wasn't ready after I've done it. I did it 3 shows and I was like, I wasn't ready. But next time I say yes, I'll be ready. Um, it wasn't a horrible, but I could have injured myself vocally if I had gone more than 3 performances. But I knew it was 3 performances ahead of time. So I encourage people exploring repertoire that they're not necessarily comfortable with. I was a wannabe tenor most of my life, so I sang a lot of tenor arias and tenor scenes. To this day, I still think I would love to do just Act 4 of Carmen, just for fun. And there's a lot of Calaf I'd like to sing, even though I can't, but I'd love to. I encourage people to try different repertoire. Best example I can give you, a few years back, I got the chance to do a concert that was recorded for the radio, aired on the radio in Canada. It's called CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Company, but the French part is called Radio Canada. And Sylvia Lécuyer is her name. She has been interviewing everybody in the world of opera for decades. She just retired now, actually. And she said to me, she knew I was playing pop music, she knew I was writing songs, and she knew I was an opera singer. She said, would you be interested in putting together a concert between an hour and a half of your songs? And so I went in their studio and I sang some of my compositions, and I added some popular music as well, and opera or classical singing. And that was my concert. My concert was, I sang Jacques Brel, La chanson des vieux amants, right next to something I wrote, right after singing Vaughan Williams, Home No More Home to Me, Whither Most I Wander is the title. Like, and you put all those things together, and at the end of the night, I even asked people, like, was it okay to? They were like, it felt like one repertoire. I just made it. I don't know how to explain it. I just made it mine.
That's so wonderful, Etienne. It's like music is one thing. Putting labels.
That's right.
You have just to do it in the good way, with a good taste. If it's with a good taste, then it's one music.
Good taste, but I want to say with you. You have to do it like you. So when it comes to repertoire, I know it's strange answer to your question, but when it comes to repertoire, it's like if you can sing anything, as long as you sing the way you sing. And my take on it has always been, I'll say yes to anything that I feel like doing. And if audiences, directors, whatever, the world I'm in, if they say, that was not for you, or you shouldn't be singing that anymore, I'll be like, happily, fine. But I'll sing it with my voice, with the way I can. I'm not gonna try to sound like, because that's not how I sing. So that's my advice. Like, don't change who you are for a role just because you think, this role requires heavier voice, higher voice, I don't know, whatever it is that because we're crazy, right? We put all these ideas in our brains, even though no one else said them, but we put them in there. So it's good to just be like, little devil, little angel, just like, shut up, shut up, shut up. This is me. This is how I sing. I'll sing. So I sang Germont again. Like I said, I was 34. The guy who was playing my son was 35. and I sang it with my voice. I sang it with the way I can sing. It was a very young sounding Germont. But because I was singing it confidently like that, people were like, yeah, fine. Like, you look like your son's brother, but
And
in
go
terms of believability, gray area. But you sang absolutely beautifully. So, they were happy to give it to me again. I did 2 or 3 more after that. And I was like, well, there you go. I think that I've just found the proof to what I was saying all along. Whatever the repertoire is, sing it with your voice. Be true to who you are, and maybe people will like it.
How do you handle stressful situations? Let's say the back-to-back debut that you have done, Alejandra. Sorry, that was your question, but I'm gonna make it now. I stole your question. Sorry. So you were making this back-to-back debut in 2015, if I'm
Oh
wrong,
God.
and
Yeah.
it must have been a very stressful situation. How to
Yeah.
deal with all these changes? So how did you deal with it? What are your techniques, let's say, that help you keep cool and overcome this situation?
Oh, I don't have any. So there's one thing I did to myself when I was younger that made me realize something. Is I used to have massive anxiety younger. I still do. It's just it affects me differently. So a massive anxiety because I had this book in my French class that you had, all your classes you got a book and you had to bring it to your class. And then the Friday before I picked up my books for the weekend, couldn't find it. Like, oh, maybe I left it home. No, couldn't find it, and I looked everywhere, and I was like, it wasn't at school, it wasn't in my stuff at home, and I was calling my friends, like, did you see my French book? And I was freaking out. I was freaking out to where this book could possibly be, because we have one locker, it has to be in that locker. Couldn't find it, and I was crying myself to sleep because I was like, oh, it's gonna cost money because I lost this book. So I was 12 or 13, so, yeah. And the Monday morning, I show up to my French class, and I'm just like, oh, and I was like, I'm sorry, I lost my book. And the teacher's looking at me like, it's okay, go get another one. Like, you'll figure that out later, but you need that book to work. So go to that office and get another one. I was like, you can get another one? So I just went and got another one, came back to second class, and I thought, well, that was a waste of a weekend. I destroyed my everything, my emotions, my mental health, everything. I'm putting myself in that situation for the silliest thing ever. And for the little story, by the end of the year, it turns out that my mate in my locker had taken my book. And so when you bring back your books at the end of the year, my book had been turned in already, so I got my money back. Because so I was like, I stressed myself so much for something that solved itself. And so it's one of the ways I deal with anxiety is that I'm like, well, let's say, for example, I have to learn a role for, the 1st of June. Well, I'll be stressed out of my mind because I'm like, I don't know it. And I'm like, but there's a point where I go like, well, okay. So especially at night, especially when you go to sleep at night, where I go like, well, I can't learn more than I have today. And while I'm sleeping, my brain is going to do all of its work unless I don't sleep. My brain is going to help me if I give him rest and sleep. So there's part of me that just goes, by June 1st, my stress, it'll be gone. Because I'll have sat in the rehearsal, and I'll have sung through it, and I'll know the bits that I know better than others, and we'll figure it out with the director and the conductor, blah, blah, blah. And my stress will be gone. That night, I'll sleep super well. So I'm like, why shouldn't I sleep well now? Why should I put myself through this whole, I don't know, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years of, being so nervous about something that I'm losing sleep, I'm losing health over it. Ultimately, it will also affect my singing. If I can't rest, and if I can't eat, and if I can't, if I can't enjoy life because I'm so stressed about learning, it still happens. I still stress about learning stuff. But there are moments where I'll be able to tell myself, calm down. By this date, it'll be done. It'll be over. If I need to be in the rehearsal space, like I said, on June 1st, rehearsing the role, by June 2nd, the train will be on its tracks. So it'll be fine.
Sorry,
So it's dumb to lose sleep ahead of time.
Have you done something like this until now? Yeah, because we are on the 28th, so June 1st seems like 2.5 days. Have you learned the role in 2.5 days?
I have. I've learned. When I was 30, I did Enrico once, and then I want to say 4 or 5 years later, I replaced the Deutsche Oper. I replaced for an Enrico, and I thought I remembered it a lot more than I actually did. I even forgot a line on stage, a line of the recit. And I remember staring at the prompter. There's a prompter at the Deutsche Oper. I remember staring at the prompter, and the prompter was just looking at me. And this is, I guess, it's a problem when you like acting, is that I wasn't singing my line. I was looking at the prompter, and the prompter wasn't giving my line because I think he thought I was acting. I was like taking a moment here before I say my line, Yeah, I couldn't remember what it was. So it came back to me, but I freaked out for a good 2-3 seconds there internally.
Just one line. Come on, it wasn't too much.
One line, yeah, but I had learned the thing in 2 days and a half. Yeah, I just I could have done better. I've learned Barbieri. The first time I sang it, I memorized it in a week, and I was 26 or 27 years old. And since then, I've tried memorizing in a week. Anything else never happened. The brain doesn't work as well when you're older, when you're in your 20s. To all the kids out there, while you're in your 20s, learn all the roles, all of them. Learn all of them. You don't know what to do on the weekend, learn a role. I did my first Don Giovanni at 40. Holy moly, it took me months to learn this. Don Giovanni is a lot of recits. A lot of recits, not a lot of sing. It's you're not the Donna Anna or the Donna Tavia who have like these long, beautiful duets and arias. You have little arias and you have snippets everywhere, and you do a lot of recits. I was like, oh my god, it took me a long time to learn Don Giovanni because I turned 40 when I did it, and so I was like, not the same brain. I was like, and other people on stage with me in the rehearsal space were all in their 20s and in the 30s. And they hadn't sung many times before the role. So they're feeding me my lines. Like, I'm sorry, I wish I had done this before. Learn them before. Learn them as early as you can.
Yeah, they know what to do in the weekends now.
Well, maybe not weekends, but free time, or especially when you have insomnia, don't know what to do. Just open a score. Try to start remembering a page. A page of recit goes a long way. In any opera, it doesn't matter if it's Mozart or Verdi, a page of recit is good. It's that in the bank for later, It's great.
Great. Alejandra, what do you say? Let's pass to a less stressful subject about family.
Well, actually, I did have a question now that you're talking about memorization and how it has been different now from your 20s to later that you're like, I this role. What are some of your methods for memorization that have been successful? Because I know that everyone has different ways to memorize music, and it can go from, reading it 1,000 times to what?
Well, I'm an ears person. My memory goes through hearing it. So as much as I've heard in my life, and I said in my life, don't learn by listening to the recording. Unfortunately, for me, it works really well. I can put segments of a recording on repeat while I do something else, and so the music will be in my brain. And yeah, I get surprises when I start singing it because it's not the same speed, it's not whatever. But I'm not, because I'm an ears person. I can actually differentiate the way a person sings than my way of singing. It's just that if I hear it, it sticks, and I'll hear I'll hear the words that they stress, and I'll hear all sorts of things that I'll fight against, or I'll be like, oh, I think this would be better if I did that. Like, it actually helps me. I know it's not a happy scenario all the time, but it works for me to listen to it.
Mm.
Doesn't work for me if it's just someone playing like the piano part. That doesn't work. It needs to be like a recording of it. That works for me. And when it comes to memorizing, and I'm sorry to say this, but the later the better. So if we're staging a scene tomorrow and I still don't know it fully by heart, that night I will finish memorizing it, and it will be in forever. It's just there's something about it has to be now. Like, you can't delay anymore, right? Like, oh, I could do it tomorrow. I can't do it tomorrow. So there's something about when that happens in my brain just memorizes it, just picks it up.
Mhm.
And I apologize to everyone out there who feel like, that's the lazy way or the dumb way, because it's risky, and it's the way my brain makes it works. You mentioned earlier, when I was doing those two first roles at the same time in 2015, it was Onegin and Rodrigo in Don Carlo, two very important roles in my career as well. They stayed important roles. I've redone those roles many times. Onegin is the one I worked on ahead of time a lot because of the Russian language. I wanted to be as precise as I could, and I wasn't as precise as I could. I was as precise, not as I could, because it was too much with learning the two roles at the same time. I've become much more precise with the Russian now today of Onegin after having done it 5 times. But Rodrigo, I learned I learned so quickly. I memorized it in 3 weeks. Uh, Most of it I memorized in 3 weeks. I mean, I had sung through the role many times before, especially the arias. Um, and what happened is and it was a revival. What happened is we only rehearsed for 2 weeks, and the day of the premiere was the day that we were starting rehearsals for Onegin. So I went in, did the first quartet for Onegin. I was more stressed for that because of the Russian, and I was singing with two Russian singers and a Russian conductor. I was like, ah. So the first quartet I was like this for 1 hour, and then I went to the show that night for my very first Don Carlo, and I wasn't as stressed. It was hilarious to me now that I think about it. We had never rehearsed it in order, so the Don Carlo. So when I went on stage, I would come off stage and be like, go towards my dressing room, and someone would grab me and be like, you're in, you're next. I never realized how especially in the first half of the opera, you're always on stage. You're always there. You're witnessing something or you're singing something, always. And so every time I'm like, I guess I can go to my dressing room. And I was like, no, you're back on in 5 minutes. What? Like, it was. And so I never got a chance to think about being nervous. And someone just pushing me back on stage singing again. It was the best success I've had, one of the best successes I've had in my life that night. Because I wasn't thinking. I was just singing. I was just doing it. So yeah, I guess I'm not entirely answering your question. I'm answering a bit more. But that's how I learned. That's how I memorize, by being a bit last minute, unless it's something like a language I've never sung in before. I would probably do the same for especially a composer I've never sung before. I had to pull out of I'm supposed to be singing right now. Actually, I went to pull out of John Adams' piece because of how I've been sick for. It's still not completely healed, but for 2 months I couldn't sing, just couldn't sing. And so John Adams is not some. I started singing through it, and I couldn't sing, and it was coming very soon. There's no way I would have needed time to sing it ahead of time. Other repertoire I could have learned, but it was a new composer, and I couldn't put it in my. I tried, it just didn't work. And to be honest, I'm still. I mean, I haven't been singing like on stage for a while now. I've been resting.
But now you will come back stronger after the rest, I'm sure.
Hopefully, yes.
And maybe family is one of your strengths, right, Alejandra?
It's a
Yes.
muscle one needs to flex as well, is personal life. I'm just going to call it that because it can mean anything to anybody. In my case, is to be a papa of a 6-year-old boy.
Mm-hmm. How is it to be, you know, a partner in life with an acclaimed soprano like Nicole Carr, and this child together? And it seems like you're a beautiful family, but it must also involve some challenges to be with a colleague in life together. So, would you like to tell us what are the strengths of this and what are the challenges?
Well, the strengths are the obvious ones. It's that, you know, your partner completely understands everything going on in your brain in the professional work, the professional life. So you get an email about an offer for something, immediately they ask exactly the questions that you're asking yourself, you know, and immediately they open the calendar and they check, like, is it possible, and can we make this work? And immediately, like, you don't have to explain, I would require this to work and this and that, and they know right away. Same when you're on stage. If you're not feeling it, if you're on in the zone, whatever, they understand what you're going through, so they can help or empathize, or like it's great to have someone in life that can just be like, I completely understand what you're going through in any situation. So, you know, in this case, it happens with the professional life as well, whether I completely understand what you're saying to me right now of how you felt when you were doing this on stage, or in rehearsal, or, you know, when this colleague said that to you, and I completely understand. This is great. It's also great to have someone you trust that can just be like, you know, I heard when you were singing that, and it was a bit off pitch, or it was a bit of that, or a bit. Great, because you need ears that you trust in this business. Advice: neon lights flashing. Here's my advice to everybody: find ears, external ears you trust, because we cannot judge what we sound like. It's one of the things I have to say almost every time to singers: stop trying to make it sound beautiful to you, because that means that you're keeping it for yourself. So what we get is a fraction of what it could or should be. External ears that you trust are key. They will tell you what it sounds like out there. You have to trust them. Therefore, you have to believe what they're saying. You have to trust the buzz in the voice, so that even though you're like, but it sounds ugly to me, external ears will say, no, what we get is a velvety, beautiful, round, well-placed, healthy sound. That's important. So a partner, having Nicole in my life, helps with that, and I help her in hers as well. So these are the strengths. The challenges are kind of the same, as in, like, you know, she gets an offer while I'm getting an offer, and all of a sudden we're like, what are we doing with our son? Or when are we going to see each other again? Or, you know, and and we're soprano baritone, not soprano tenor, which would make it a lot easier, let's be honest, to sing in the same roles and sing same operas. But soprano baritone has some stuff, so we've sung together a lot more than I expected. I think because we're similar singers. I've often said that we're lucky that Nicole and I think very similarly to what it's like to be on stage. We involve ourselves a lot in the characters, and we even sing in a similar way, which is a bit. There's a bit of instinct mixed with technique. Like, it's not just one aspect. So I think if a artistic director likes one of us, he usually likes both. I think it's not an absolute truth. It's just I've noticed that directors seem to be happy to hire both of us together, in general. So that's why I'm saying this. So we're very lucky. Again, I've said that before. I'm going to say it again. We're very lucky. I'm very lucky. I'm a very lucky person. So that could be a challenge, but so far it's been okay, because we've managed to sing together a lot. Or, you know, we have to make it work so that we're never, like, the roles will be overlapping by a little bit and not too much. It's not necessarily going to be the case in the near future, but then the year after that, yes. And then, you know, it's, so that's one of the challenges, to be able to see each other, and to be able to parent together, and to be able to, well, be in love and be in a relationship together as well. You know, it's already a challenge when you're a parent. So when you're a parent that are not physically in the same house or the same country, even, that can be a bigger challenge. So we're working on that all the time. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think, to me, that these are the biggest challenges. I mean, of course, like I said, we're lucky because we're very much alike. But if one of us didn't get great offers, or, you know, or great recognition, then there can be, of course, an element of jealousy, or not jealousy, envy, maybe more, where it's like, I wish I also was getting beautiful reviews from my peers, or but we do generally. So, and when we don't, we can talk about it, and it's fine, I remember when I said that to her, because there was a time when she's like, "Oh my God, you keep getting offers these days. Your career is like going like this." And I was like, "But I remember starting to date you. You got like 5 roles from the Met in one phone call, and I was just there next to you, going like, and me, nothing, okay." Like, it happens. It happens, and the more it happens, the more it normalizes it. The more it's like, oh yeah, these weeks, these months, it's all about her, and then sometimes it's all about me, and it's
Mhm.
so experience, time, maturity, all of that helps. When you're younger, you're impatient, and let's be honest, we're in a job where a lot of our self-esteem, our self-worth is linked to what people think of us, or yeah, we will give ourselves a worth based on what we think people think of us. So it's a bit easier as you get older to start brushing aside, stuff that doesn't matter. Like, to me, it doesn't matter that reviews like me or didn't like me. I'll read them all, but I won't care. I'll read them for different reasons, but I won't care so much what they said about, oh, he was great or he wasn't great, because that's not. I'm not trying to find what my worth is throughout the eyes or the lines written by in one individual one life. You know, we all have moments when we sit out there where we think, well, that was horrible, and everybody else loved it around, and vice versa. So if you give credit to that one person that hated it, you have to give credit to that one person that loved it. Like, you have to do both. It's not. So I being in a partnership like that, past when I'm in my 40s, much easier than when I was in my 20s. I don't think I would have been as good at handling all of those aspects of finding what my worth is and what my partner's worth is, and how they're not supposed to be related to each other. Like, it's not because one's very celebrated on stage that the other one, like, one going high doesn't make you go low. But a lot of people do that. A lot of people, it's something I've noticed. A lot of people will try to make people around them lower because they need to feel like they're at the same level or higher. And you'll hear that when they talk. Like, they'll take the most famous singer in the world and they'll bash them just for self-worth, just so that they feel that I'm able to feel important too, because I've bashed this person that everyone thinks is so great. Or, I know something more than whatever the reason is. But the point is, when this happens a lot when we're younger, hopefully we can grow out of it. Not everyone does. Some people die and they still haven't figured that out. You need to grow out of this. You need to grow out of this, that by attacking or lowering other people's abilities, it doesn't change anything about yours.
True. But it seems that within your busy schedules, both of you find the time to also help the younger generation of people coming now into the profession. And I have read a lot about your involvement into the Canadian Vocal Arts
Yeah.
Institute. And I would really like to hear more about your work there with the young singers, and if you feel a responsibility, to give back a little bit of the blessing you have been given to with this job.
Completely. Oh my God. I always called it paying it forward. I give lessons, private lessons as well, when I have time or feel like I can, and I never ask for a cent. I usually I'll see a person once or twice, but not more, because I'm not a good technician. I'm not a good teacher. So I'll be like, listen, I can help you with stuff that I'll tell you what I'm hearing, and I'll help you with, like, directions and stuff. But because that's why I don't charge. I'm like, I will have a 2-hour session and that'll be it. And it'd be free, but it's because I'm paying it forward. I'm trying to give a bit of advice, the way I've got advice in my life. Again, very lucky, very lucky. So that luck I need to pass on a little bit. l'ICAV, the Institut Canadien d'Art Vocal, or Canadian Vocal Arts Institute, is its origin is a baby of a program called EVI, International Vocal Arts Institute, that I had the pleasure of doing twice when I was in my 20s in Israel. I also did it twice in Montreal, the Canadian one. Now, this is strange because Nicole and I have been we've been asked and we've gratefully accepted to become artistic director a few months ago. You know, like we've never done it before. It's our first artistic director venture. But I've already asked that we should not call it the Canadian Vocal Arts Institute, because it's not, except for the fact that it is in Canada. It's not about Canada. The World of Opera shouldn't be about a country. It should be about all the countries. I have so much respect for Opera for Peace and Viola Gahuzer and what she's doing. I'm an ambassador of it for reasons, because you know they try to go and find all of these different talents in all these countries, especially countries that have less opportunities for opera. They try to help them out. And so it's something I'd like to do in Montreal with the Canadian Vocal Arts Institute, and just be like, it's not about being Canadian. It's not about being from anywhere, really. It's just about wanting to learn with some of the best teachers and coaches and singers and human beings that we can find. Not everyone's available always, but you know, we do our best. And this is, again, like I said, our first year. So we're going to try to see where we can take this little baby. But very important to both Nicole and I to help the younger generations. We're not that old. You know, we quite often, artistic directors tend to be post-career, and regardless what that age is. But we're like in the middle of it, and it's going really well. And so I said to them, like, we'll do it, but we don't have much time. But it feels so important to be able to share the experiences we have. During the pandemic, Nicole started a foundation to help young singers in Australia, because they were left to fend for themselves. The government's failed hard in Australia, in particular with musicians. So she created something called FARA back then, and she managed to raise and give $500,000 to young singers during the pandemic. It was amazing, and she. You know, we didn't have much to do. We had to be home, so she would spend 5-6 hours a day on the phone and on the email. She didn't have to do it, but she did, and this is the commitment that we have towards the next generations. That we'll try to help with any way we can. We're not great. We're not the best at raising money necessarily, but we can give the time that we have that we can give. We will, you know, and we even said. To each other 2 days ago, like, whatever salary they're paying us for this program, we'll give it back to an association. You know, we'll find something that we believe in that can help, again, young singers, young musicians, and that's where the money will go. This is not about making money, and I've said it from day one. I don't want to just get people in the program who can afford it monetarily. I want to get people in the program who can afford it in terms of personality, and that they'll be able to learn from it and like jump to a different level, hopefully before starting their career, before the career gets going. So that's where we're going with this.
That's always a great concern for educational programs, because you have to get people who really should be there because of their value and not just because they can afford. So how wonderful it could be if all the governments of the world had a way to support talented people and not people of privilege.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. It's not easy for everybody. Some people have it easier than others. That's the truth. I don't want to fight that, but it'd be nice to give a chance to the people that fall through the cracks. You know, and some people will still fall through the cracks, but we'll try to go and get them if we can. Speaking of which, if there are still people who are interested in joining the program, we still have room. We have room for young conductors, young pianists, and we have room for young singers, especially male singers. Let's be honest. we had a bunch of sopranos send auditions, very talented ones, but and a lot of mezzos, but not a lot of guys, not a lot of
I guess
tenors,
you're
baritones,
looking
and
for
basses.
tenors and basses, probably, right?
Tenors, baritones, and basses, all three of them. Running low, we're running low on those, and it's beneficial. The program is beneficial for all aspects. We are putting on a production of Bohème at the same time, but it wasn't my idea. Like it was already, imposed before we came in. I mean, I'm not putting it aside. I think it will be a formidable project. But I always wish we would learn first who is coming before we decide on the production. So now I'm
Right.
like, oh, we got to find a bunch of guys. But I know there are talented guys out there, and some of them might not know what they're doing in July. So, type icav.ca or type cvai.ca or on Google and check it out. And if you're interested, let me know, and we'll see. Who knows? You might end up singing a role in the production, or even better, in my opinion, you might end up meeting one of your future coach or teachers that will trigger the next level for you in singing and in your career.
Awesome. Is there an age limit for this event?
Well, yes or no. There's not an official one, but obviously the point is to be able to start a career that, just or to help a career that is starting. So depending on the voice type, if you're a Wagnerian tenor and you're in your 30s, I'm probably not going to turn you down because it's probably the start of your career. But in this, and I don't mean to be dismissive, but if you are a soubrette or a high coloratura and you're in your 40s or 50s, it's quite doubtful that you'll start a career. It could still happen. I actually believe that anything is possible, but of course, then it's a bit harder for us to accept you in the program.
Hmm. Okay.
But there might be
We will be
reasons why we would. You'll see, if you don't try, you won't know.
absolutely, absolutely. We will be happy to support it and spread the news on our pages, both Alejandra and Atelier. And before Alejandra asks the last question for today, I would like to, inspired by the conversation we recently had over the phone, I would like to
Yeah,
ask you about the chiaroscuro of the operatic profession. So you said something that stayed with me on that day,
yes,
that if there were not dark moments in this profession,
yeah,
we wouldn't be able to see the light.
that's right.
And this was really, significant to hear. That's why I put it as a title for today's interview. So would you like to share how you feel this?
Well, of course, but I mean, of course, I mean, it's kind of it's a silly idea, but it's as true as it can be. It's the yin and the yang. They have to exist together. You can't. How can you have a tall person if there's no one small? Like if everyone's is the giant, then no one's a giant. If everyone is, I don't know. If everyone speaks loud, then there's no soft. Soft will be loud. That's the point is that nothing can exist if it doesn't it's not in relationship to something else. So chiaroscuro is a concept um, that's till the and till, when art started, it was created by chiaroscuro, I guess. It's been there for a long time, but I use it when I talk a lot about the technique in singing, because you need to use in balance all of these different elements, and the brightness of vowels, for example. I like to say that the brightness of vowels with the darkness of the space that one needs to create inside, with the mouth and with the air column, those two elements together will create the beautiful sound. One by itself exists and we hear it out there and it's just not full. It's missing something. It's missing its counterpart. um, and it's the same is true of course, of our personal lives, of when we go on stage. If we go and we're always 100%, then we never are. So there are shows where we're singing and we're not singing as great as other shows. It's okay, because if these shows didn't happen, you wouldn't have the shows where you're singing, you're like, oh my God, this is the best show I've ever sung in my life. It would never happen. They would all be the best show you've ever sung in your life. Therefore, none of them would be.
Mhm.
So yeah, the concept. I mean, when we talked about it, I remember that we went like through different steps in the coming into the chiaroscuro. Now we've started with the end. We've started with the answer. Well, like everything needs to be in duality. It's something that we have to keep in our head so that we don't get disheartened. There are moments where no offers are coming in, auditions are not paying, and if they didn't exist those moments, then we wouldn't have the moments where they are. You know, like there wouldn't be moments where every time we walk into a room, people go, "Yay, you're here!" If it happened every time, then it would never happen. It'd be like, "Yeah, I'm expecting this to happen." Like it wouldn't cause any beneficial response. You know what I mean? Like you need to find those harder times. You need to identify them as times where you learn, or at times that are necessary for the good times to shine even brighter, to have an even better impact on who you are as a person and who you are as an artist, and they're necessary. They're necessary to also sometimes teach us that maybe the direction in which we're going is not the direction in which we need to go to get to the goal we want to go to. It's not because we aim at going there that that straight path is the path. There might be paths all around it, under, behind, and we can't foresee it. But luckily, most of us are endowed with an instinct, a gut, a feeling. Quite often, we'll feel that gut feeling when we're talking about something. It happened to us when we were just buying our apartment, where we didn't have one of those coup de foudre. We didn't walk in and go, "That's where we want to live." We didn't. We just went like, "Okay." And then people would talk to us about it. Oh, what's about that place you visited? And we'd talk about it. And the more every time I talked about it, I was like, and then there's this, and then there's that, and then there's, oh my God, would be really stupid not to get it. Like it's just that's how it came to me by realizing how I was talking about it. I realized how much I liked it. And it's the same thing when you're facing all these different choices. If your brain tells you, "But that's where I want to go, so I need to go that way." But every time you talk about these different choices, there's another choice that is the first thing coming out of your mouth, first thought you have in the morning, then maybe that's where you need to go. And if you didn't, maybe if you do, you're probably going to end up there, or even better, a better place than that goal was first. Then instead of going straight to that and having this door or this wall that will never open, and you're just going to knock on it and you're just going to try to break through it. And even if you do break through it, people will see you come in and go, "What are you doing here? You broke my wall, you broke my door. That's not right." So, gut feeling, instinct, trust it. You'll realize that the hard times or the odd times they will make the place where you need to be shine that even brighter.
Very, very, very inspiring. This thing.
It's based on personal experience. I know it's not everybody. I've said it. I'll say it again. I am a lucky person. And I think the reason I'm lucky is because I went through those without necessarily knowing what I just said. I didn't know it. I didn't know what I was doing. I followed my gut, taking huge chances, huge risks. People looking at me like, "What are you doing?" I dropped the jazz piano in Cégep to switch to classical music, to classical singing. And all the teachers, everybody was just like, "Why?" And I was at university learning how to sing classical music, but every weekend singing in a band in a karaoke bar until 1 a.m, getting to university on the Monday morning with no voice left. I did that for 2 years. Gut feeling. I follow my gut, and then I'm still here and I'm still kicking.
You are a modest person, I think. It's gut feeling, okay. Or in Greece, we have a saying, if I can translate it accurately: go where they want you and not where they don't want you. So have this feeling to go where you want it. So maybe you had the wisdom to go follow the right feeling, because we used to have several feelings and sometimes we don't know
Yes.
where to go. But it's a wisdom all the charismatic people have. And you are probably a charismatic young person at you're 18. So I think it's not only about gut feeling, but gut feeling with the charisma also, how to deal with it and how to follow the right thing.
No, it's true. It's true. But my point is always, I mean, when we're young singers and you sit, and people will probably be told that when they come to the program this summer. You sit in a room with 50 other singers, aspiring singers, and the teacher will come on and say, maybe 2 or 3 of you will have a career. Well, maybe 2 or 3 will have the career you think you will have. And that's not even true, because to be honest, maybe none and maybe one will have the career they think they will have. The truth is, if you follow your instincts and your guts, you'll end up in a place that makes you happy, hopefully, regardless what that is. It doesn't matter that you spent years and tons of money studying something that eventually will not be your main job. It doesn't matter. What matters is when you were doing those studies, you learned skills that somehow get to apply to this other thing that you might end up doing. You learn skills in opera. We learn skills about they're very life related skills, but you learn about social aspects. You get to become friends in like 3 hours with people you work with for a month. You learn about different cultures and languages. You learn about the past, and you realize that the past is very similar to the present when it comes to human interactions and human feelings. And I mean, this is just a tiny example of the stuff that you learn in opera, but you can apply that to pretty much anything else. You can apply that to any other work. You can apply that in a way that people will even be impressed with how quick you are at, responding to social cues and dealing with, because the basic thing about opera is you need to adapt. You need to adapt to these different people at all times, to this different city, to this different time zone, to this different language, to this. You're adapting constantly. You learn that for a while. What situation could you be in that could be a problem? You'll be the king of solving problems or queen of solving problems wherever you go, because you've learned how to adapt, landing in a city that you don't know, speaking a language you don't know, how to get to a hotel and how to get to your rehearsal space and how to live for a certain amount of time, dumped in them, the equivalent of a jungle, really, because they're big cities where you have no cues that you recognize, zero. And people can see you're completely lost, and it takes it some time, and eventually you figure it out. So then the next time someone says, hey, the copier is broken, you know what to do. There's something I can fix.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I guess that if you don't like this way of life, then probably it's not for you, because the life of an opera singer is 50% all these things. So if you want to be always at your nice bed, your fluffy pillow, and your beautiful house, then probably you have to reconsider what you are doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love when people are like, how often do you sing, during a day, during a week? There's like barely. I barely sing. I'm always on the computer trying to find flights and hotels and trying to figure out who's going to take care of my dog, and is my son going to come with us? Who's going to stay in school? Who's going to look after it? And it's in that. And I mean, of course, we're partners, so Nicole and I are doing that together. But we talk about it all the time. And then at the end of the week, we're like, hey, did we sing this week? Like, we forgot. We forgot to sing for a whole week, and we're like, all right, let's
go back.
Let's warm that up for a little bit. You show up to rehearsals quite often. We're like, how often did you sing the role before you sing it in the musical? Oh, I think I did it once, 2 or 3 days ago. There's so much to think about, because you have to do your income taxes, and you have to talk to your family and your friends, and life keeps going on, and no one understands what you do really, outside of people that do it too. So they're all like, well, why aren't you calling back? Or why are you so busy? It's like, you have no idea. You have no idea the amount of stuff going through my brain in 1 hour,
Yeah,
But it's okay. But we love this life. That's why we do it.
it's really nice that we are normal people, right? Because many people from outside that don't know how the life of an opera singer is, they believe that we live in a fairy tale all the time, especially people like you and Nicole. And in the past, we used to have opera singers with secretaries and offices. I mean, there are still, but there are normal people like you who are managing to deal with everything so nicely as ordinary people. And I can
try.
that you're a normal person.
We try to stay normal. I mean, what
Yeah.
are we? I mean, opera singers, or it doesn't matter what you are, Hollywood actor. Who cares? I don't care. I mean, we all look kind of the same when we have got our clothes off, and we all have to eat and go to the toilet, and like we're human beings. We're all, we all get we have sometimes we get sad for no reason or happy for no. We all go through it. I don't care that you're the queen or the king of England now. I don't care. You're still a human being. And so that, to me, that's the bottom line. We all go through this together. If I talk to my waiter at the restaurant or the person trying to help me to book flights, or like, these are all people trying to help. Even I don't care that it's their job. They're trying to help. I appreciate that. I talk to them like I appreciate it. And I hope they appreciate I talk to them like that. And if they don't, that's fine. I don't care. But I hate the whole, I'm blah blah, and people should know. And we talked about this before. The respect that I'm getting from people that don't know me, I think is weird. When I was coaching for Upper for Peace a few weeks back, and there's one of the kids that called me maestro. Every phrase he said to me, everything's like maestro this, maestro that, maestro. I was like, you have to stop. I understand I'm invited here as a master, but you have to stop calling me maestro, because I am not a master of anything. I'm just older than you. I've just been doing this job for longer than you. That's it. That's the only difference between you and I,
Yeah, maybe we were just green, very young, and I don't think there was an intention.
It just felt respectful. I got it, but it felt also like this. It didn't acknowledge the fact that I'm just like him. We could be friends. I don't care about age difference. If we get along, 20 years difference, if we sit down, have a drink or a meal together, and when we talk and we realize we could be friends, I'm not gonna be like, I can't because I am, older than you and wiser than you. Like, no, I'll be like, hey, no, I get along with this guy. We could be friends. I don't care about age or social differences or cultures. Like, I believe we could and should be friends, or at least friendly with just anybody, But of course, not everyone gets along. I get it. But at least we can try. We can try to just be like walking in a rehearsal space. That's one of the comments I often got in my professional career. You walk in a rehearsal space like it's your home, like you belong there. I'm like, but why wouldn't I? I've been invited there. I belong there. Even when I was 25, and all these big singers were there, and bigger careers, I was just starting, and I walked in and I'd be like, hi everybody, like, why wouldn't I? I walked into 2 auditions like that, like, hello, go and shake their hands, and they immediately smile at me. I mean, whatever. They can still think I'm playing a game, but I wasn't. This is important for me, the distinction. I'm not saying go in and shake everyone's hand. I'm saying do you. This is one of my favorite phrases now. You do you. If you being yourself is walking in and being a bit shy, but fighting through it, just be like, thank you for hearing me today, then that will be lovely, and that they will appreciate. If you go to them, force them, like, hi, and look in their eyes and shake their hands because you think that's what I said you should do, then they will hate you. Because it will feel forced. It won't be nice.
I think from the little personal contact that we had, that you're a person that makes everybody feel comfortable. You are a kind of joy in the company of people, and you also helped me find a taxi in the middle of the night. So I can certify that you are doing all this. It's not just words.
That's true. That's true. I know, but I would appreciate people doing it for me or for my loved ones. So why wouldn't I do it?
Yeah,
if I want someone to help my wife when I'm not around, or to help my son when then I will do the same.
Exactly.
It's a very important principle to how you treat to people that you don't have anything to gain from in your everyday life. I think Bernard Russell said that the quality of the person is shown on how you treat the people that you have nothing to expect from. Like you say, the waitress, the doorman, and you can make actually the world such a happy place around you. So why make it sad, and unhappy? And yourself.
You have to understand, opera houses, the general public doesn't quite understand this, but opera houses, they're houses. There are families in there, huge ones. There's an entire orchestra, there's an entire chorus, there's a lot of technicians, a lot of people working in the offices, marketing, directing, whatever. It's a ginormous amount of people. They all work for something that usually they believe in, but they work there. They work there every day. So if you walk by the guy handing you props and ignore the hell of that person or yell at them for giving you the wrong prop or whatever, you're insulting a member of their family. Their whole family will turn on you. You know, I would turn on someone who's insulting someone in my family. And a lot of people outside the opera don't understand this. Opera singers, we're only like the little pawn on stage that people get to see, but there's a million people around it that, well, not a million, but you know what I mean? Like there's tons of people around that make it happen, that make it work, that allow us to be able to do that allows the audience to be able to witness this. And if they're not there, this entire job doesn't exist. This entire field stops to exist. So if we can bring a bit of respect to everybody involved, from the first person you meet when you walk in the theater to the last, then you're making a better work environment for yourself, for generations to come, for people wanting to come back to work the next day. It's important. If they decide to do something else, and it could have happened in COVID, it did happen. Some people changed their line of work, and what happens is that you don't get the same quality for the audience and for us, some quality of anything, of musicianship or of commitment. This is not a done deal. This job, it can disappear. We have to take care of it. We have to polish it. We have to nurture it. I truly believe that, and I believe it in terms of human beings as well. I think you can behave like that with someone you meet on the subway. It doesn't, but I definitely want to do that with houses where I work. And I will say this to finish. I strongly believe one of the reasons my career always kept going, and it's still going, is because I was able to be nice to, I want to say, almost 100% of the people I worked with. It didn't matter who they were. I know choruses can decide if they want to see a singer again or not, depending on their houses, but sometimes they can, because they'll have loved or hated the attitude of that person. And I'm not doing that for that. I'm just saying, like, who would you want to invite back into your house? Someone that respected it or someone that didn't?
Definitely the first. And it seems that in that way you can create a lot of families around the world, so that the huge cities, they don't look so frightening anymore because you have a family.
That's right. That's very well put. It does allow you to have a sense of belonging, even in places where you've never been before. And that is important, isn't it?
Very much, very, very much. I spoke a lot. It's a very inspiring conversation. We can continue for hours, but I think the epilogue belongs to Alejandra and all the thousands of young people behind your platform. You can speak out and say whatever comes to your mind to Etienne, and or ask the question, but it's yours.
Thank you. No, it's been such a pleasure about your experience and how you have, of course, so much to offer, and we really appreciate how you come to this space to be honest. And like you said, I feel like a lot of opera singers may be like, oh yes, these are all the amazing things I have done, and they might not share the things like you mentioned. You're like, I was scared of this, or I was angry at the point, or all the doubts that one can have. And like you said, there's many challenges that we have to go through, but what's important is just to persevere and trust that gut feeling, and remember that luck. We're surrounded hopefully by a lot of luck that will put
But you know, there's a young singer asked me a few weeks ago, said, "How often have you reconsidered your choice of being an opera singer?" And I said, probably once a year, you know, because, and I mean it. I mean it. It's reconsidering, as in, can I do something else? Would I be happier doing something else? Is this job still bringing me what I'm looking for? You know, and I want to say, actually, you should reconsider every year at least. Put the pros and cons, trust again your gut, and be like, am I still happy doing this? And if you're not, will I? You know, you don't have to make a drastic decision right away. Just be like, will it change? We'll see. You know, but there's a time when it's like 2 or 3 times in a row that you reevaluate and you go like, I'm really not getting what I want out of this career. Then yeah, why not change? Why not?
Exactly.
It's happy. Your happiness and your fulfillment is more important.
Absolutely. Is there a specific message that you hope your career is leaving behind for other singers that look up to you?
Yeah, it would be that any career is as important as the next. We're all, you know, everyone, it doesn't matter how they're not similar. It's fine that they're all different. It's fine that they're all unique. It's fine. It's actually welcome that we're all unique. My career, leaving anything like Etienne Dupuis' career, leaving anything behind, would just be he did things his way. That's it. Like, that's all I want it to be. I don't want it to be. I want it to be an example of just you do things your way. That's what I want. I don't want it to be like, that's the way. Well, I know it's kind of a paradox. It's like, yes, it is the way if you're doing it your way. And my way is doing it my way. So there you go.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. We would like to thank you very, very much for being Etienne and not someone, you know, like a mister or a maestro, and for speaking with the heart.
I should have wrote maestro Etienne. That would have been hilarious.
And for giving us an impression that I think I will have to ask Alejandra, because I have met you personally, but do you have the feeling that you met him personally by seeing him through the screen? Because that's my impression, that it's like we got into your house and you hosted us for a while.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Next time when we meet in person, we won't feel like we don't know each other.
No, definitely not. And we ask sorry to your little son for depriving you from him for such a long time.
Yeah, it's almost time for a shower and going to bed.
So we are wishing you all the best for your future plans, for your family.
Thank you. And to you too. All the best for your future plans as well.
Thank you very much. We would like to thank our audience for being with us tonight. Stay well, all of you, and see you soon.
Thank you, everybody. Hope to see you again soon. Can be outside the theater anytime. Just come and say hi.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Goodbye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.